small a is for end. So purpose, objective, goals, and standard. So these are this is not like a system of planning. So anyone wants to make a plan. This is one basic example, a tool for you to be able to plan. So for example, if you have a company, you're running a business, then any business should have a plan, strategy. And the plan is a major part of strategy, like I said. So these are our first purpose. Then under purpose, there are a couple objectives, and within the objectives, there should be several goals, and under those goals, there are going to be some standards. This might be easier to understand. So purpose is an underlying thing that behind everything you do. Purpose of a business, for example, a business is there to incur the earnings, the profits. And for another example might be a marriage. Their marriage purpose is to pursue happiness. And education is to develop and improve and mature yourself. Those are like a purpose. So, I mean, if you are a strategic person and the area that you are engaged in, whether it's a study, whether it's a church, whether it's a business, or whether it's a personal career, you should have the purpose statement or mission statement. So good exercise is, we're going to do it together. I mean, this is going to be class exercise for you today. Ask yourself, I mean, what is the purpose of doing something that you're doing? You can say the class, the study. And what is the purpose of your study? Or if you're a business person, and you can ask, what is the purpose of my business? And you should have a mission statement, clear, specific, and well-written mission statement that states and describes your purpose. So people or organization without a purpose is like running a circle. You just run and do something very diligently, but you just run a circle and you are going nowhere. That happens many times. And in Korea, I mean, the parents tell their children, study hard, and then you study hard, day and night. And many of Korean kids in Korea, they study like 10, 12 hours a day, just sitting and reading the books and going over those materials and then the thing is, the parents don't tell them their children why they should study hard. So missing the purpose and just studying hard, it doesn't give any merit. And then you go out into society and then people tell you, earn money, get money, and be rich. So being rich is not purpose. It might be one of the objectives, but it doesn't credit you as a purpose. So purpose is something that has a meaning. ultimate cause for you to engage in certain things. So purpose is the underlying thing, and many does not have that. They may have some objectives, they may have some goals. Your goal might be just finish this class and then do another class and get the credit and get good grade, and then you are going to earn the degree, whether it's a bachelor or master, the degree. That might be your objectives, but there has to be certain purpose behind it. Your objectives, and then within those objectives there can be one or two goals. So goals is more smaller than objectives. So going back to the previous, so there is a purpose, and then under purpose there are several objectives. Within objectives there are goals. So these are you should have this picture in your mind. So with the 6W1H, that and these two. This is just basic. Not only is it basic, it's fundamental. If you have this in your life's gonna be more organized. It's gonna be more systematic. So learn to do it and practice. Whatever you're doing, whenever you're doing the major important things, important planning, you're gonna do this. Ask yourself why, beginning from why to wherefore, then ask these. So have this picture in your mind, and the standards. Standards are who's gonna do it, where you're gonna do it, how you're gonna do it. These are going to be included in the standard. So these are the levels and the systematic levels of planning, and you should be able to do this. It's not that difficult, right? Once you get the concept. I should have given you some examples, but I didn't do it. So try to do this. While we are doing the class, think of your purpose. And then there's a purpose, and your objective is get this class and get the grade, appropriate grade. That might be your objective. Goal is to read the materials and then understand the concepts. That might be your goal. And within the goal, how do you gonna do it? Read and write and review. Those can be the standard. So this is how it works. Okay. Now, so you plan the structure. We're going to talk about this later, but when you have a strategy, you need to have a people and then structure. So plan the structure. There are several ways to plan the structure, and the process-oriented and result-oriented. Some people are more process-oriented, and some people are more result-oriented. If you compare the two different cultures, Asian cultures to the Western culture seems more process-oriented, and then our culture, at least the Korean culture that I grew up, they are more result-oriented. I think that this is common in other Asian cultures. So we Asians, you do the education, the society, and then people, they expect you to produce certain results, and so thus many of our plannings are result-oriented. But in America, if even in a school, the teachers look at your process, your efforts, rather than the grade itself. So grade actually is the representation or evaluation of your process. I think that is a major difference in culture itself. So teachers in America, they tend to look at the process, the efforts that you're putting into the whole development process, rather than seeing just test grade only. But in the culture that I grew up in, early days in Korean education, they only focus on the test result, how many points you got out of 100. So that's kind of like a difference. So the structure, certain structure is process oriented, while some other structures are result oriented. So you can build I'm not saying which is better than others. It depends on. Some structure has to be result oriented. For example, a factory, you need to produce a good 100% quality product. In those cases, you are going to be result oriented, for example. Then comprehensive yet feasible. Your structure, because the strategy requires a structure to put out the product, and that structure needs to be comprehensive, meaning it should include a whole. You're seeing everything, the whole thing, the together, entire thing, from the bird's eye perspective. There are leaders who are focused in a certain section or part of the system or structure. Those leaders can be very good on that certain expertise, but they are not able to see the whole thing. If you're the person, a leader who are going to plan for a strategy, and you need to be comprehensive, meaning that you're going to see overall process and structure. Yet, it has to be feasible. Meaning, you can have a good ideas and very great ideas, but if you cannot bring it into the actual reality, then your ideas are just imagination. If you're just a dreamer, then you cannot become a good strategist. So a good strategy person brings that imagination and the dream into reality, which means it has to be feasible. Feasible means possible. It could work. It should work. So workable and possible, and with the resources that you have, that's the responsibility of strategist or good plan. Then also it has to be it begins from tentative. Tentative meaning it's not decisive, it's not decided, it's not final. So any plan or any structure that you're trying to build, or any system that you're trying to build, at the beginning is tentative, meaning it's just a plan. It can be changed later. So it's not solid, fixed, finalized, nor finished. So it's tentative. Then as you make the plan, go along with the plan and talk to people, communicate, and get the resources and informations and work out, and you can finalize the plan. But your plan is never finalized until everything is complete. See, this you understand it. You need to understand this. There is nothing, no so-called final plan. Some stubborn leaders think that way. They make a decisions, and then they finalize, and they try to put the resources and people into that finalized plan. Your plan should be flexible. Your strategy should be flexible because there are always unknowns and there are always unexpected. Because we are just human beings. We do not see the future. We do not know exactly what's coming. There are many different factors that can change your plan. So a good leader is always flexible. You don't want to be too much flexible, so your plan is just up and down, and change from the morning to the day and to the night. That's not the flexibility I'm talking about. That's inconsistency. You don't want to be inconsistent, but your plan, strategy should be changeable. Flexible. So all the plans that, and then even you're executing, in the process of executing the plan, it should still be tentative, meaning it can be changed. So until everything is done, your plan is still ongoing process. You may be able to change your plans. So planning is a very important part in strategy, and a good leader, when he or she plan, think of strategy begins with a plan. So we are talking about that planning. Okay. Now, the lesson 8-2. A leader strategize, and then strategy requires priorities. So a leader prioritize. So when you're doing the planning, there should be like a priority number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So priority number 1 is more important and maybe urgent and necessary than priority number 2. I said importance and urgency and necessity. These are some of the elements that you are going to consider when you are setting the priority. So what is your number 1 priority in your life for now? Ask yourself, what is your number 1 priority? It can be people, it can be certain project, it can be like objects, like money. So your number 1 priority, the importance, urgent, and necessity, and maybe mandatory, mandates. Mandate meaning it is a must. There are certain things that is a must, like survival, keeping yourself alive. That's probably number 1 priority for any person. But there are some people who just don't want to live any longer, and then your priority about your life is no longer valid. So having the priority statement. What is your number 1 priority in your life? Ask yourself the question. It can be a person you're thinking, or your parent, or your children, or your wife or husband. That can be your priority, number 1. Or, that is my work. Your answer might be saying, oh, it is my study. That's my priority number 1 for at this time of my life. Or your number one priority is earning and getting money for the future. So you have a different priority, and we can tell what kind of person he or she is by asking this question: what is your number one priority in your life? This is a very key question for a Christian leader, especially in a church, when you're trying to do a ministry together. You gotta know your co-workers number one priority. So you're gonna ask a question, and then they might not give you the honest, frank answers. So people are reluctant to give honest answers to this very question: what is your number one priority? They may not know it. That's okay. I mean, you can teach them to, study their number one priority. But they try to deceive you and say, they don't tell you the truth. Then we have an issue. So you gotta ask yourself first in front of God as a Christian leader. If you're a believer, what is my number one priority? And then between God and you. And then you're going to ask your fellow workers, what is your number one priority? If you're running a business, and if you're the boss or CEO or executive person or the business owner, you want them to have your business as number one priority, and that is never the case. Never the case. So that's unreal. But in a church setting, we want every fellow believers to their number one priority should be God, the Christ Jesus, and that's a common value in a church. So you should have a common value in your church. For family example, what should be your number one priority for you? What do you expect from your family members? Of course, your family should be the number one priority for your family members. And if that's not the case, you are in trouble. So this is a key question. So you should know what your number one priority is, and you should know what the number one priorities for the workers or the co-workers that you work together. And that's the same question is valid for the marriage as well. So if you are getting married or you are in love with someone, you should ask, what is your number one priority at this time of your life between you and me? And you know what the answer should be. But the answer is not the real answer is not the answer that you're expecting, then you have a pretty difficult case. Okay, so the Bible tells you, if you're a believer and Christian, this should be in your heart. Luke, in the Gospel of Luke, it says, and do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it. So eating and drinking is not number one priority for Christian believers. And for the pagan and non-believers, pagan is non-believers. Pagan world runs after all such things, and your Father knows that you need them. So the God knows that we need to eat and drink. That means not only He knows, but He is going to supply our food and the drinks. Verse 31 says, but seek His kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. So that's what the Christians believe. So this seems like very ideal and not worldly and not responsible. But once you practice this, as a believer, we know that this is true. The same thing, Matthew, the same verse. It says in another way, God seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. So the Christian believers, Christian leaders, this should be the first priority in their life. And this is quite a difficult the statement. And if you're a believer and if you have been trying to follow this very statement and truth, you know that it is not easy to do this. But because it is difficult, you don't give up. That's the value, that's the meaning, that's the purpose. So there are something that you need to pursue as a leader, even if it's difficult, even if it's not feasible, even if it seems so ideal. The ideal, the purpose and the objectives that we are pursuing as a mature adult, it's always ideal. It looks ideal. What is the difference between the severity and priority? There's something that is urgent, and there are something that is important. Both you need. In your life, as you try to live on, and as a leader, your system and then your work demands severity and priority, both of them. Sometimes the problem is it contradicts one another, creating the conflict. So that's where you are going to make decisions. And the strategy, the word strategy means you are going to give up certain things for the other. So in your personal life and your life within an organization, whether it's a church or a company that you are working on, or the business that you are running, whatever the context that you are in, the issue is you always making that decision, giving up something to take another thing. It's best when you are able to take both or more. But the reality says you cannot take both. Which is, you cannot be at the two places at the same time. You can only be at one place at a given time. Probably if you are a mother who has children, see, there's a need to be with your children, while there's a need you to be in another place. Many times you cannot be at the both place or bring the children to your work or your school. So that creates this issue. Which is more important? Which is more urgent? The severity and priority. It looks very severe, but it may not be your priority. It looks like it's a priority, but it doesn't have that severity. So this is the conflict. So the answer, number one, do the right things. Do the right things. This is a principle of setting your priority. So priority, when you're deciding which is my priority, you're going to ask this question. Is it the right thing to do? Is it the right thing to do? Many people, whether you're a Christian or not, they do not ask this question. The world says these days, If you feel right, it is right. I mean, that's what the the world today is telling you. So your feeling is the judge for the right and wrong, and that is wrong. I mean, your feeling that's not consistent. Your feeling, you cannot trust on your feeling, because a feeling many times can mislead. And then there should be certain standards to decide whether this is right or wrong. And today's young people do not have this guidance. And they say, if I feel okay, if I feel happy, and if it gives me pleasure, it must be the right thing, which is very wrong. I mean, to the many of the standards on our age and our era, it is wrong. But see again, the priority, is it the right thing or wrong thing? That's the number one question. So, to do so, you should have a right motive. Right motive. You either have a good motive or evil motive. Evil motive says, this is only for me. If it satisfies me, and even if it hurts others, that's okay. That's what the evil said. So evil is selfish and self-centered. Evil is selfish and self-centered, and it says it is okay to hurt others to get my benefits. That's evil. And the good says, the good, is it going to benefit others? That's the number one question you are asking. Before you are asking, is it going to benefit myself? So this is a very difficult to do so. I mean, you've lived this much long, whether you're in 30s, 40s. I mean, you guys are an adult, and each adult had many experience of asking this question: is it going to benefit me or others? And many times we decide to have benefit for myself than others. But the goodness or good, you should decide for others. So that's a priority question. Self or others. Okay. Next, the test ethics. There are different set of ethics, and each ethics is asking, is it right or wrong? And if you have your religion, whether it's a Christianity or Islam or Buddhist, every good religion, religion has the set of ethics. And even if it's different from one religion to another religion, ethics says this is right and this is wrong. These are right decisions and these are the wrong decisions. So you have a set of standards when you're doing, setting the priority. So priority question is actually the ethical question. So right or wrong? And us Christians ask, is it biblical? That's the first question that you're asking. And legal, the law says, if you live in a certain society, they do have laws, written laws. And there is something that's illegal and illegal. Even if you think that this will bring you the fast and good profit, if it's illegal, it's not going to be your priority. So priority question says, is it legal? And then there are social cultural norms, unwritten laws. And by conscious, and then your experience tells whether this is the right thing to do or wrong thing to do. Even if it's not written, you know by heart, and your heart says this is right and this is wrong. That's a cultural and social norms. And then consciousness. Your consciousness says this is by birth. Your intuition says this is right or wrong. So these are the ethical questions. Okay, let's have a 10 minutes break, and please come back after that. Thank you.
今天唯一一天没有迟到。特别今天早上。你说你拿个这个，你走啊，再帮我谈一下。我写下名字。你想写就可以了。
你现在就写了。
对。
不是你签到了。
签到了。
哎，我还没签。
我让他签，都还没签。
你先签的是吧？
啊，这个帮我填一下。
他上网试试微信也行。
对。
你不会改给我吧？我帮你。有点害怕。
没有啊。
我知道今天要去市区，我就回市区。最近一个项目都是在市区里，每天开车来回4个小时。
我开车1个小时。
来回4个小时，快一点，晚上9点。
我开到公司40分钟。
回来40分钟。
回来1个小时都走，回去又4个小时。
还好，
开2个小时。
最近这2个月都得要这样子，都快。
好累哦。
对，项目结束了就好。行，谢谢。
Okay, I'll continue with the lesson. B, do the important things first. So the priority, which one do you do first? Do the right thing. And then B, do the important things. How do you decide whether this is important or not? Okay, that will be the question. The answer is value. There are certain things that have value to you and your family, to your life. So when you ask what is my life's priority for now, the same question as what is the most valuable thing in my life? Probably it's the same, you may have the same answer. So if whatever you value the first, the most, will be included in your priority. So the value. So how do you decide which is valuable or not? So how do you make up of certain values? These are the ways. Number one is that your value is on people or money. I mean, if you could have both, the money and the people, that's the best. But in many cases, these conflict one another. If you decide to choose to have people, you may have to forget about the money, or the other way around. So, what's your value? What is more important to you? Then, process or product. If you focus on process, you may not have the product that you want to. I mean, the productivity that you want to have. And if you focus on the productivity, the process productivity, you may have to sacrifice on process. So these conflicts one another, and you have to make the priority decision about those issues. Many times when you are invest on the future, you may not have immediate satisfaction on the things that you do. So, whether you want to have an immediate satisfaction and the result, or do I want to have a long-term benefit? So, that would be the question of value. So you have to sacrifice one for another. And relevancy and notability. If you want to see something visible, notable, to show others, the thing is, it may not be relevant. So, many times to be relevant, you may need to sacrifice something that's visible to others. So these may conflict. So your value decision, deciding something of a greater value, and it's not always the same. And you want to be rational in deciding the priority. It's very important. The validity, reliability, and sustainability are the issues. So your priority says this has to be valid, and this the decision is reliable, and not only is it reliable, it's going to be sustainable, and it should enhance the potential The potential question, that's something many leaders do not value many times, may miss this. It is important for you as a leader to be able to survey and understand and get the hidden value, which is a potential. Potential may be a potential of a company or a group or a church. But more of the potential is a potential of a person. So when you look at a person, when you evaluate, you want to see the potential of that person, and bringing out that potential is one of the key issues of your priority. And many leaders do not want to put time and effort in bringing out the potential of a person, because not only it is difficult, many times it is risky. Which meaning, let's say this person has a potential of 10. It is difficult to bring out all that 10 in a given time. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. Many times you may fail to bring out the potential, because that's the most difficult thing. To utilize the given potential, already in known potential of a person, that's much easier. So whether you're playing in an athletic field or in business, no, it takes a lot of effort and very keen eyes to be able to identify those potentials. Once you identify the potentials, you have to have the skills and means to bring out that potential, and it takes time. And just not the group time. You have to give in one-on-one mentoring efforts. So thus, it is difficult to bring out those potentials, but that should be your number one priority as a church leader, as a business person, as even as a parent, mom and dad. So that should be our priority and your priority. The reason I emphasize that is because many times we take an easy way out. Easy way out is just bring already known potentials into your work and work that out. Make a structure system and give a priority and do the work. That's easier. So we do not want to focus on more difficult tasks. But more difficult ones, the task should be your priority as a leader. As a member and follower, it's okay. But if you're a leader, your job is to bring out the potential, the hidden ability out, and just mature that person. Then number C, do the urgent thing. So right thing and important thing, then comes the urgent thing. So that's like a third priority. But you need to handle the urgent matters. If you just ignore the urgent matters, then you are asking for trouble. So urgent matters are important, and it should be in your priority as well. So there are some now things. There's something that has to be done on time. So when I say urgent things, it means something that has to be done on time. Something that you cannot delay. Something that you cannot do later because of the nature of that issue and the problem or the task. So certain things that you have to do on time, unless you do it and you just miss that critical timing, and once you miss that critical timing, and it's many times it never comes back. So that's what we call an opportunity or a chance. And there are many of those in your life. If you lose that opportunity, that has to be done on time, then you may not be able to come back. So, I mean, in education, there are certain age that you need to learn certain things. For example, a language, it's earlier the better, right? When you become an adult, it is more difficult for you to acquire another language. So if you're aiming to learn another language, it's easier when you're done, begin that in earlier times. So there are certain things that has to be done at a certain time. So the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. Schedule your priorities. So if there is something that's important, urgent, and then you put that into a certain time schedule and make it happen. And if you do not have that plan to fit certain task on a given time, then you are more likely to fail. And those failures, many times you cannot come back and correct. There are many failures that you can do over and over again and then succeed later on. But there are certain things that you cannot come back and correct. So these are something we call urgent. So that urgent issue, something that has to be done on time, should be included in the priority. So there is something that's called emergent things, emergencies. Emergencies usually is a life or death issues. You know, in your business or in a church, there isn't much of this life or death issues. But in your life, actual life, your family, your personal life, that might happen. Not that often. You know, we don't want that this emergency to happen many times in your life, but that it comes, whether you like it or not. There's going to be that life or death decisions, and always life should be the priority. And then there are other dangers in your life, dangerous things that you have to make risk your life or your health, and then to being able to stay healthy, and being able to sustain your life should be your priority. But the thing is, many sacrifice their health for money. Money should not be your priority. I mean, health should be your priority. But people forget that for some reason. So this is one of the key issues for the questions for the priority of young people today. Imminent. There is something that comes to your life. You don't go to that thing, but those things come to your life, and you know, if something becomes imminent, meaning it's right there at your door, and when those things happen, that becomes your priority, whether you like it or not. There's something that's very time sensitive, and process sensitive. Time sensitive, you know, but process sensitive is something that has to be done before the other things need to be done. In a school, since we're doing the class, there is something called a prerequisite. Meaning this class has to be done before you take a next class. For example, English 101 has to be before the English literature, I'm an English major, so that's an example. So English 101 is a basic English thing, and then you need to take that class to take English literature or American literature. So this is something called process sensitive, and these things happen in your personal life and in a group situation, in a business. These things always are there. So there's something that's imminent, and you need to take care of those things. And there are something called mandatory, and it's your duty, and it's a must thing. Something when someone says it's a must, for example, you have to get 60% or more to pass this class. That's mandatory. I cannot change it because I did not make that rule. It's a school rule. I mean, and then that's mandatory. It's a must. And there are things in your life that is mandatory. You have to do it whether you like it or not. And the thing is, you cannot change those things. So these things are mandatory, and it becomes something that is urgent. And you need to follow those rules. See, to come to the United States, you need to have a valid visa. Some of you may come to school to maintain their visa status, which is mandatory for you to be here. And if you do not get that, then you become illegal or sometimes even undocumented. So those things are mandatory. And the mandatory things, many times we do not like that. But even though we do not like it, you have to do it. So these are should be included in your priority. So that's something that's critical. Critical means absolute. Absolute. For example, I told you that I'm working as a hospice chaplain. Hospice chaplain are the chaplain or pastors or priests who are making visits for the patients who has 6 months or less in their life. So medically speaking, they are to die within 6 months. And absolute, for a patient, there is something called the vital signs. Vital signs are absolute signs to sustain your life. For example, you have to have a certain pulse, the beat, heartbeat. If your heartbeat goes lower than 10 heartbeat per minute, then you are going to die soon. And if your breath is like you're only taking breath like less than 10 times per minute, and you're almost there. And there's something called oxygen saturation, which your blood carries oxygen, and it should be 95, 96% or plus. If you're doing the nursing, you know better. So those are like a vital sign, and it's an absolute. If you go behind, lower than that, you are going to die. So these things are absolute, and then you cannot change that. And those are so-called critical things. So absolute values, absolute things are critical, and you cannot avoid. You cannot go around. And it is there. And ultimate versus temporary. Ultimate things are absolute, and absolute are ultimate. And these ultimate things are critical. For example, every one of us here are going to die sooner or later. So that's an ultimate. But the question is, what is going to happen once you are dead physically? So we call that's a death. I mean, think of dying. Once you're dead, you're not here anymore. So isn't that critical? It is critical. So this is a sense of critical. And in life, there are many of those critical moments you are going to face. Someone you love, that person may die. And when that happens, that moment is critical. Right? And then you may lose your job and you're not going to have any money to support yourself. And it becomes a critical moment. So those are critical things. And when the life becomes critical or your business becomes critical, your priority is very important. And your priority is very important. So the critical moment becomes urgent moment. And you need to make decisions. And you need to have a good strategy. So that's what it is. Okay, priority spectrum. This is easy. In order to say yes to your priorities, you have to be willing to say no to something else. So that's the priority question spectrum. So how do you do it? This is a good scale or the spectrum or the formula to decide your priority or your strategy. When you are planning or when you're making decisions, you put on scale of this. The thing we want to avoid is that gray area. Many times your gray area spectrum is too wide, and then you are confused and you are not able to make decisions. And some of you are having difficulty making decisions, even buying certain things. You are thinking like over and over again to choose which product you're gonna pick. So it's an issue. This is kind of a disability. But once you practice on this scale, it's much easier. So there's a worst and the worst and bad. So the thing is, you don't want to decide on those areas, those spectrums. But life is not that fair. So sometimes you have to make and choose worse than worst. See, people cannot accept that they have to make a decision choosing worse rather than worse. But life and your business, your family, and your personal life may require or demand you to choose worse than worse. See, that happens, right? And best is the best. Okay, when you are able to choose the best, it's good. It's good. That's much better than good, actually. But best is rare in your life. You are always dissatisfied. You think that might be something better than this. And if you have that set of mind, nothing is best for you. But to be a believer, a Christian, we believe God gives the best for us. It is our perspective, our value system that say this is not best. But when you are praying and when you're believing in God, we believe that God is going to give us the best. The only issue is me who are making that mistake. I'm responsible because I chose to go for better or worse, sometimes even. So that's our philosophy, our belief as a Christian. But anyway, you are going to make decision, and then later you look back and you could have made a better choice, and then many times you go for bad or worse because of something that's inside you. And so these are the scales that you can use in making decisions. Okay. And there was a quality and quantity wise, it's the least to the most. So it's pretty much the same thing. Okay. Now we need to do some house chores before we go further. These are the quiz that you have submitted. I did not lose any, so probably you have some of you do not have everything. Some of you have number 1 to number 7. We had the 7 quiz. So I'm going to give you this to give you back this so you can study. I said that the final test comes out of these questions, 25. I'm not going to do any more than 25 because, but you have to study these to, give the right answers to 25. So, Chen, right? He, H-E-E. How do you pronounce your name? He. So He is a last name, right? He. Jaeyoung Kim. And Yoko. There we go. And one Lee. Is that correct? One Lee.
Yeah, one week.
Mm-hmm. And Ren. Okay. Thank you. And Shin Ji. And this is Liu Chu Yang. And how about Kuen Chen? Can you pronounce your name for me? Chen. And Kyosuke Furoda. Furoda-san. Okay. And Lee. Anli. Okay. Then Kuiti Misuae? No. How about Luis? Morone? Luis? No? Luis. Okay. This is Vera.
Can I see it?
Vera?
Yes.
How do you pronounce it?
Button.
Button? Thank you. Okay. So. Now let us have a quiz for the day. Question is number 8. This is the final quiz that we are going to have. And this is also going to be included in your final. Go ahead and start your quiz. I'll give you like 5 minutes to finish. And who has not signed the attendance sheet? Okay, let's go over on quiz number 8 together. And you want to make sure which is the correct to answer, because these are going to be on some of the questions going to be on the final. Number 1, which of the following is not a good planning principle? A, plan ahead. B, with end in mind. C, write a detailed narrative. D, just plan for short term. You should plan for short term and long term as well. So D is the answer for number 1. True or false? Number 2, planning brings the ideal into practical. Yes, it does. So it is true. Number 3, planning brings imagination into the reality. It should. And the answer is yes, true. Number 4, planning needs to be comprehensive yet feasible. Yeah, it's true. Number 5, planning begins with the tentative ideas but should end with finalized statements. It is so true. So all true. Number 6, which of the following is not an ethical factor for Christians in deciding the priority? So biblical ethics, yeah, it is the first thing for a Christian to consider. Be legality, it has to be legal. Socio-cultural norms, yes. And the D, cost and spendings are probably the last thing of ethical list. It doesn't have to do many times. It's not related to ethics. So D is the answer for number 6. 7, which of the following is not a rationality factor in deciding priority? So something to be rational. Validity should be considered. Reliability, yes, it needs to be considered. C, creativity is not a rational factor. D, sustainability, yes. So the correct answer is C for number 7. Number 8, which of the following is not a category for priority? Convenience, emergent or emergency, critical, mandatory. Answer is A, convenience, maybe sometimes, but not really a category for priority. Okay, fill in the blanks. Priority spectrum says worst, and number 9, worst, bad, gray, good, better, and number 10, best. So that's going to be your priority spectrum. So keep your quiz today and take home and study. Okay, next class is class number 10, and it's going to be the final class. And if you have missed any class, I told you that you can write a 1-page report on the class that you have missed. And I believe the video we are taking is on the school site, and you can access that site. So look at the class that you missed and look at the video, and you can write on those topics. Just 1 page, double space, and the size letter 10, and then I'll consider you have attended the class. So each class you attend has 5 points for you, and if you have not missed any class, you're gonna get 50 points automatically. So that means you need 10 more points to pass this class, right? But unfortunately, if you have missed more than half of the class, you're not likely to get more than 50, because each class is 10 points, right? Together, 5 points for attendance, and the rest quiz and other things are another 5 points. So if you have missed more than 5 classes, then you are in trouble. So I'll give you just a chance. And it's the same thing. Just watch the video for the class that you have missed and make a signed statement. I have watched the lessons such and such. And if you have watched the video, then you are considered that you are in class. So you can make up the class that you have missed by watching the video on the website. And you can sign and submit me a signed statement saying, I have watched this class on the video, and then I'll consider that you attend, which gives you at least 5 points for each class that you have missed. In that way, you will be able to make up to 60 points or more. And my measurement is including the final test, which counts as probably is a 10 point, right? So if you do the final exam and get the 10 points, and you have not missed the 5 class, you have passing grade. So you still have a chance to pass this class even if you have missed more than half of the class. And some of you, I know that you missed more than half of the class, so that's why I'm telling you this. I don't want you to, just fail the class, because you need to get the grade, right? And I'm providing the means and ways to do it. You have 1 week to do it, and I think it's plenty of time to do it. It's a 2-hour class, but the video usually runs 1 hour 30 minutes total. So you are able to do that even if you have missed more than half of the class. So any questions regarding the grading? So understood. Okay, if you have a question, just come and see me, and hopefully you will pass the class with a good grade. So 90% or more is an A, 80% or more to between 90 and 80 is B. So that's a simple scale. Okay, now let's continue with the outline and finish this one. A leader, he or she, as to strategize, need to implement. Once you plan, plan is just plan. It's a good thinking. It's a good statement. Unless you implement. Implement means you are acting out, actually doing it. So implement is important. You have to implement your plan. Strategy is just an idea unless you implement. So first, how do you implement your plan? Number 1, optimize your plan. So you're doing it, and you are doing it to its best, fullness. So optimize is one key word. A concept and definitions. Leader optimizes. Optimize means make the best or most effective and efficient use of a situation, opportunity, or resources. Here, that should be effective, also should be in color. So effectiveness and efficiency, that's how you define the optimize or optimum. So you need to have an efficiency and effectiveness. Why your pie is always small? See, this seems to be very true in your actual life. You have to share the pie. Because we are living with other people, other nations. And the pie does not grow itself. So the pie given you, if you are sharing with the 2 people, you're going to get half of the pie. If you're sharing the pizza with 10 people, you're going to just have a 1/10 of that pizza. Seems to be small because the pie is always the same size. And there seems to be more people who are wanting to have that same pie. And there's some reasons. Individually speaking, people have something called ego. Ego means desire to supply himself or herself, the needs, to satisfy the needs of a person. That's an ego, and it's natural. There's nothing wrong with the ego itself. But when you have an excessive ego, and the people do have excessive ego, that's the personality, human nature. So because of that, it happens. And then once it becomes an excessive ego, then it becomes a sinful desire. There's this always saying, I want more. I want to have more than that person. So that's our sinful desire, sinful nature inside. So when that happens, the pie gets smaller. Actually, pie is the same, but it seems to be small. And the ignorance contributes to that as well. And indifference is that saying that I don't see that person. He or she is not there. So you ignore that person. You say that person does not exist. That's indifference. And then you are not considerate. You're not thinking of other person's need. You are not sensitive to others' need. So that's indifference. And many people in modern culture, modern society, tends to be indifferent. They don't bother about other people. And that causes pie to be small. Actually, it is not small. Then social injustice. It's not just an individuals, but social system. It's not fair. Usually it is not. We tend to try to become fair, but society is not fair. Because of a social injustice, your pie gets smaller. Because someone takes the half of a pie for himself or herself and divide the rest of half into 10 or 12 or many. So this portion, the group of people who are getting that small pieces has always this dissatisfaction, complaints against the ones who are having a bigger pie. Whether it's in a capitalistic system or socialist system, communist, we don't call communist anymore, but socialist culture and the system, it doesn't matter. Both has that social injustice. So the thing is, we cannot say that American capitalistic market is better than China's socialistic market. I mean, no longer we cannot say that. It's not anymore the issue of ideology, but it is an issue of social system. And any social system we have experienced so far in our history is never perfect. It might be a little better than some others, but never perfect. While it's not perfect, we are feeling not satisfied. That's the truth. So, social injustice contributes to the issue. Limited resources. Resources never seems to be enough. But actually, the resources are more than enough. The food that we produce every year over the earth can feed every single one of Earth population once it is distributed fairly. So we are producing more than enough, but the people waste the food. People store food unnecessarily, and they sell the food in so high price that people cannot afford to buy those food. These are the issues. So the statistics says we are producing more than enough every year to feed every single one, not to be hungry. So actually the resource is not limited. It is us human beings who are causing it. And then waste. We do produce a lot of waste. The food wasted in America every year can feed the most of third countries who are hungry. So the waste itself, I mean, the food that we throw away, it can feed all these third country people who are hungry. So that's what it is. And we need to think about that. Okay. So it is critical for a leader to optimize the given resources and share them and make it fair. So how do we do that? First thing is people. You need to motivate them, inspire them, enhance them, and empower them and encourage them. By doing all these things, we can optimize people, utilize people, use their potentials. So think of your family, your church, your business. If we do that for every person, and if they are inspired, if they are encouraged, and they will produce, and we can maximize, optimize. How to optimize works. We promote efficiency and effectiveness. That's all the business do. So that's not really quite an issue. But to promote excellence, to do that, we need to deal with the people. I mean, people, see, we know that we want to do less work and want to be paid more. And that's human nature. So there is a certain laziness in us. And if you're not the owner of that business, if you're an employee, if you're working for someone, you're always thinking, how can I do the less work and pay more? So that's not excellency. Excellency says, I do my best and I'll be paid fairly. That's the mind of excellence. And then that is difficult. To do that, we need to be able to handle the people. So this comes first to be able to reach that excellence. So to optimize, it always starts with people before work. Many leaders and many business owners, they think the other way around. If I can create efficiency and effectiveness, we will be able to reach that optimum, the best outcome in the productivity. That's not the case. You need to learn how to handle and relate to people. If we do that, then work matters, not the other way around. Many of the thinking, if you can do the work areas, and then you can produce and miss the people. So this is important. And then values and benefits. providing benefits for every and each one who are working together, whether it's a non-profit or profit, it does pay. It does pay. So work should be able to provide the profits for everyone, not just the owners or leaders or the pastors, but it has to be shared. So that's how it is to be done. Okay, it's time to go home, and I hope